Ain't I a Woman? The epic story of Isabella Baumfree, Sojourner Truth, 1797. A child was born, not into freedom, but into scorn. In Ulster County, New York's rolling land, a baby girl placed in slavery's hand. They named her Isabella Baumfree, but she would never truly be free. Not in those early, stolen years, not through the violence, not through the tears, sold with sheep for a handful of coin. Tell me, where does humanity adjoin? When a child of God can be bought and sold, when human souls have a price in gold. They ripped her from her mother's breast, put a price tag on her chest. Property, they dared to call this sacred life, but heaven wept at such evil strife. Her mother's arms reached out in vain, her father's heart broke with the pain. The family torn, scattered like dust, because of greed, because of lust, for power, for profit, for cotton and cane. They built an empire on human pain. And Isabella was just one child, one soul among millions defiled. Sold again, and again, and again. Each master brought a different pain. Each plantation, a different hell. Each day a story too dark to tell. She spoke in Dutch, her mother's tongue, but English was the language that had won. It cursed at her when she couldn't understand, beat her down with a brutal hand. The confusion, the isolation, the fear, no one to translate, no one to hear. Lost between two worlds, two lives, struggling just to survive. They took her labor, took her youth, but deep inside, she held her truth. Something they could never break, something they could never take. A spark of dignity, a flame of worth, that burned within her from her birth. No matter how they tried to kill her spirit, that inner voice refused to quit. Through the beatings and the scars, through the darkness without stars, through the endless, grinding days, she found the strength to praise. To praise the God who saw her pain, to believe she'd break this chain. Faith became her secret weapon, the promise of a future beckoning. 1826 arrived at last, a year that would rewrite her past. New York prepared to end slavery's reign, but freedom came too slow for those in pain. Isabella looked at her daughter's face, knew she couldn't wait for government's grace. She'd waited long enough, suffered long enough. Now was the time to call their bluff. With her daughter clutched against her heart, Isabella made her bravest start. Into the darkness, into the unknown. She fled the only hell she'd known. No map to guide, no stars to lead, just faith and desperate burning need. Every step could be her last, every shadow held her past. The dogs might come, the hunters might chase, death itself she had to face. But death seemed kinder than slavery's grip, than one more day under the whip. Through forests dark and rivers cold, a mother and child, brave and bold, running toward a dream of free, running toward what they could be. She knocked upon the Van Wagenen door, two refugees from bondage's war. Would they turn her away in fear? Would they pretend they didn't hear? But the door opened wide, not closed, and in that moment, hope arose. They saw her not as property to own, but as a human seeking home. The Van Wagenens did something rare. They chose to show they truly care. They paid the master, bought her free, not to own, but to let her be. In that brutal age of hearts of stone, they proved compassion could be shown. They proved that white hands could extend, not to harm, but to defend. Isabella's chains fell to the ground, a sweeter music, sweeter sound, had never blessed her weary ears. After so many bitter years, she was free, legally, truly free. Free to live in dignity, free to raise her daughter right, free to step into the light. But freedom brought new questions too. What was she meant to say and do? What was her purpose? What her call? Why had God preserved her through it all? 1843, a sacred year, when God's voice spoke crystal clear. Not in thunder from the clouds, not in words spoken loud, but in the silence of her soul, a voice that made her spirit whole. Isabella, it whispered through the night, I have called you to be my light. Your name no longer serves its role, the name that slavery put upon your scroll. You must travel, you must speak, you must comfort the weak. You shall be sojourner, a traveler, true, walking roads both old and new, and you shall carry truth wherever you roam, until every captive finds their home. In that sacred holy moment, Isabella made her covenant. She shed the name that bondage gave, the name that marked her as a slave. From the ashes of Isabella's pain, rose a phoenix breaking every chain. Sojourner Truth, the traveler of light, walking through America's darkest night. She had a mission now, a calling clear, to speak the truth that all must hear, to preach until no slave remained, to speak until justice reigned. Though she could not read or write a single word, her spoken truth was always heard. Her voice carried power, carried weight, carried love and righteous hate. Hate for the system that enslaved, love for the souls that must be saved. She traveled north and traveled south, truth flowing from her prophet's mouth. In churches, halls, and town squares, people gathered up the stairs. Thousands came from far and wide to hear this woman speak with pride. White and black, rich and poor, all crowded through the meeting door. Some came to mock, some came to jeer, but all would leave with something clear. This was no ordinary voice. This was history's choice. This was heaven speaking through demanding what was just and true. Her words cut through pretense and lies, opened, closed, and blinded eyes. She spoke of pain. She spoke of hope. She gave the broken strength to cope. Ohio 80. The Women's Rights Convention met, fighting battles unpaid yet. Educated women, brave and smart, demanding they be given their part. Demanding votes and equal say. Demanding respect in every way. But in that hall of noble fight, something wasn't quite right. They spoke of women as if all were same, as if all faced identical shame. Then a man stood up to speak, his words designed to make them weak. Women are too delicate, too frail, too soft for life's tempestuous gale. They need our help to cross the street, to lift them over puddles at their feet. They need protection, need our care, too fragile for the world out there. The women tried to make their case, but struggled to refute his base. Then something happened. Someone rose, someone whom the doubters chose to ignore, to overlook, to set aside, to let their prejudice be their guide. But she would not be silenced now. She would not sit, she would not bow. 6 feet tall of living fire, former slave with soul inspired, dark skin among the pale crowd, ready to proclaim out loud. Sojourner Truth took the stage that day, and everything began to sway. The room went silent, tense and still, waiting for this woman's will. That man over there, her finger pointed true, says women need help in all they do. Says we're too weak to stand alone, too delicate to hold our own. Nobody ever helps me into carriages, or over mud puddles to spare damages. Nobody offers me the best place, nobody shows me such tender grace. And ain't I a woman? Don't I have flesh and bone? And ain't I a woman? Don't I stand here on my own? Look at me, look at my arm, this arm that's worked on every farm. I have plowed and planted fields of grain. I have borne the whip, I have borne the chain. I have worked as hard as any man alive. Tell me, did I need help to survive? I could work as much, eat as much too, when I could get it, when it was due. And ain't I a woman with strength in every limb? And ain't I a woman though my skin is not like them? I have borne 13 children from my womb, watched most of them sold to slavery's tomb. I cried out with a mother's desperate plea, and nobody came to comfort me. When I lost my babies one by one, when my maternal heart came undone, did anyone say I was too weak? Did anyone comfort when I'd weep? And ain't I a woman, with a mother's breaking heart? And ain't I a woman, though the world tore me apart? That man says women need intellect, that we lack reason to direct. But if women lack intelligence, he claims, then why fear giving us equal aims? If my cup holds but a pint, and yours holds a quart, that's fine. Wouldn't you be mean and selfish not to let me have my own small wish? And ain't I a woman with a mind to call my own? And ain't I a woman, though seeds of hate were sown? The room exploded with emotion raw. Truth had exposed the fatal flaw. How could they claim to fight for women's rights while ignoring black women's plights? Silence shattered like breaking glass. Old assumptions couldn't last. Some wept openly, some cheered loud, some looked away, some bowed. But nothing was the same that day. The world had shifted in a major way. She'd united to great causes in one fight, brought intersectionality to light. Before the word itself was born, before the concept had been worn, Sojourner Truth had shown the way, that oppression's linked in every way. She didn't stop with just one speech. She took her message to all in reach. Year after year, town after town, she would not let the movement drown. She worked with Frederick Douglass, side by side, to former slaves with warrior pride. Together they traveled, spoke, and wrote, giving the voiceless a powerful vote. Harriet Tubman joined the cause, fighting against unjust laws. William Lloyd Garrison stood firm. Abolition was the term. They were a force, a mighty crew, determined to see freedom through. They faced the hatred, faced the rage, wrote justice on history's page. When the Civil War exploded across the land, Sojourner Truth took her stand. Not for the North, not for the South, but for freedom from her mouth. Recruit black soldiers, was her cry. Let those who've suffered most now fly. Give us the guns to free our own. Let our bravery be shown. We've bled for this land without the right to claim it. We've built this nation, now let us reclaim it. Now give us arms and watch what we shall do. We'll fight for freedom, for me and you. She traveled through the Union lines, encouraging, giving signs, telling black men to rise and fight, to claim their freedom, claim their right. In 1864 she walked through Washington where power talked. She had an appointment with the man, President Lincoln, the nation's plan. Into the White House, head held high, she looked him straight in the eye. No bowing, no scraping at his feet, she came as an equal to meet. Mr. President, she said with no pause, I must speak truth about our cause. Freedom's not charity from your hand, it's our divine right to own this land. Lincoln listened, humbled by her fire. This former slave who wouldn't tire. She told him of the freed with no place, who needed land, needed grace. 40 acres and a mule, she said clear. That's what justice looks like here. Not just release from bondage's cruel hold, but means to live, to have, to hold. Education, opportunity, and land. That's what freedom must demand. You've broken chains, that's just the start. Now give us tools to build our part. Lincoln knew her words were true, knew there was much more to do. The war would end, the slaves would free, but what would their future be? In 1864, she walked through Washington where power talked. She had an appointment with the man, President Lincoln, the nation's plan. Into the White House, head held high, she looked him straight in the eye. No bowing, no scraping at his feet. She came as an equal to meet. Mr. President, she said with no pause, I must speak truth about our cause. Freedom's not charity from your hand. It's our divine right to own this land. Lincoln listened, humbled by her fire, this former slave who wouldn't tire. She told him of the freed with no place, who needed land, needed grace, 40 acres and a mule. She said clear, that's what justice looks like here. Not just release from bondage's cruel hold, but means to live, to have, to hold. Education, opportunity, and land, that's what freedom must demand. You've broken chains, that's just the start. Now give us tools to build our part. Lincoln knew her words were true, knew there was much more to do. The war would end, the slaves would free, but what would their future be? She nursed the wounded in their beds. She comforted the dying, held their heads. In hospitals where soldiers lay, she worked through night and day. She fed the refugees who fled the South, put food in every hungry mouth. In camps of freedmen newly released, she worked so suffering would cease. But more than physical care she gave, she taught them how to be truly brave. You're free, she'd shout with all her might. Now stand like you are free. Fight, demand your rights, live with dignity. Don't accept less than you should be. Education is your weapon now. Use it and show them how. She organized, she mobilized, she helped them open their eyes to see themselves not as former slaves, but as free people, strong and brave. Though mobs did threaten her with rope and fire, though they called her every name and liar, though churches turned her out in shame, though men cursed her very name, she never whispered, always shouted, never feared, never doubted. Her voice rang out across the nation, a clarion call for liberation. When others cowered, fearing for their life, Sojourner Truth walked into strife. She went where she was not wanted, spoke truths that left people haunted. In Indiana, a mob surrounded her, their intentions sick and sure. They threatened violence, threatened worse, but she stood firm despite the curse. Kill me if you must, she said, but my words won't die when I am dead. Truth cannot be murdered or destroyed, it will fill the void. Her courage made them hesitate, her faith made them contemplate. Many times she faced such danger, many times she was the stranger, but she never ran, never hid, never stopped doing what she did. Because she knew her cause was just, in God she placed her trust. When the war ended and peace came, the work continued just the same. Emancipation had been declared, but much rebuilding must be shared. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery's chain, but 4 million needed to rise again. How do you rebuild from utter destruction? How do you create new construction? Sojourner Truth kept advocating loud, standing before every crowd. Land reform, she demanded clear, give them means to persevere. Move the freed to Western land, give them tools to make their stand. Don't leave them stranded in the South, don't let their dreams die in drought. She met with officials, wrote petitions, pushed for better conditions. She fought for education rights, for equality in all sites. She worked tirelessly until old age, writing history's crucial page. Even when her body weakened low, her spirit continued to grow. The years passed by, her hair turned white, but still she fought the righteous fight. Into her 80s, she would speak, still giving voice unto the weak. She'd seen so much change in her time, witnessed the end of the crime. From being property, being sold, to speaking to thousands, brave and bold. She'd met presidents, she'd changed laws, she'd given hope to noble cause. She'd proven that one voice could shake the foundations of injustice and make a difference that would never die, a legacy that would reach the sky. From the depths of slavery's night, she'd become a beacon of pure light. In 1883, her earthly work was done, her race was run, her victory won. In Battle Creek, Michigan, she passed away, but her spirit lives to this very day. From Isabella Baumfree, sold like livestock small, to Sojourner Truth, who stood so tall. From property to prophet, slave to sage, she rewrote history's page. She proved that worth is not defined by chains that others design, that dignity cannot be sold or bought, that freedom is a battle to be fought. She showed the world that one black woman could be transcendently human, could speak for millions with her voice, could give the hopeless reason to rejoice. She was the first to truly understand, to take that intersectional stand, that you cannot free just half a people, that justice must reach every steeple, every woman marching in the street today, every soul refusing to obey, every voice that cries no more. It stands on the shoulders of the war she swore, the suffragettes who came after her, the civil rights movement that would occur, the feminists of every generation, all owe her a debt of recognition. She taught us that silence is complicity, that speaking truth is necessity, that one person can change the course when righteousness becomes their force. Her story transcends race and time. It speaks in universal rhyme, about courage in the face of evil, about faith despite upheaval, about never accepting injustice's reign, about transforming suffering into gain, about using your voice when others can't, about standing firm in your righteous chant. Sojourner Truth fought for a cause so vast, greater than her present or her past. She fought for future generations unknown, for seeds of justice to be sown. She could have stayed quiet, stayed safe. She could have hidden her face. After winning her own freedom from the chain, she could have avoided the pain. But she chose to fight for others' sake, to stay in the battle, to never break. Because she understood a profound truth, that freedom isn't just for you, it's for every soul that's still oppressed, every heart that's still distressed. Until all are free, none are truly free. That was her philosophy. So when you feel too small, too weak, when injustice makes it hard to speak, when the powers seem too strong to fight, when darkness overwhelms the light, remember Isabella's mighty stand. Remember truth across this land. Remember that she had every reason to quit, every reason to simply submit. She could have said, I'm just one voice. What difference could be my choice? She could have said, I'm just a former slave. Who am I to be so brave? But she didn't let those doubts win. She let her righteous work begin. She proved that one voice, one heart, one soul can help to make a broken people whole. You are stronger than you know. Your voice can make the mountains bow. Like Sojourner, rise and declare, I am here, and I matter, I'm worthy of care. One person can change history's course, when their truth becomes their force. Stand tall, speak loud, refuse to fall, for justice needs the voice of all. Don't wait for someone else to start. Don't wait for permission to take part. The change begins with you today. In every word you say, every way you choose to stand for what is right, you choose to be a beacon of light. You choose to speak when others won't. You choose to fight when others don't. Look around the world today. Injustice hasn't gone away. There are still chains, though different kind, still people left behind. There are still voices being silenced, still communities facing violence, still women not treated as equal, still need for justice's sequel. Sojourner Truth's work isn't finished. Her mission hasn't diminished. Every generation must take up the fight, must choose to walk toward the light. When you see racism's ugly face, when you see someone denied their place, when you see injustice have its way, what will you do? What will you say? Will you speak up like Sojourner did? Will you refuse to stay hid? Will you use your voice to make change? Will you help others rearrange the systems that cause pain and harm? Will you sound the alarm? Will you stand with the oppressed? Will you give your very best? This story isn't just about the past, it's about making justice last. It's about you and what you'll be. It's about your legacy. Sojourner Truth didn't have advantages, didn't have wealth or privileged passages. She was born with every disadvantage known, yet she changed the world, seeds she'd sown. So what's your excuse for silence? What's your excuse for non-defiance? If she could do what she achieved, what can you do if you believed? She couldn't read, she couldn't write, but she became a blazing light. She had no formal education, but she moved an entire nation. You have opportunities she never had, tools and resources she'd be glad to have possessed in her time. So use them, make the climb. Use your education, use your voice, make the courageous choice. Use your platform, big or small. Use your privilege to help all. Sojourner Truth's greatest lesson clear is that justice requires no fear. That speaking truth might cost you much, but silence costs the human touch. She lost comfort, safety, peace. She faced threats that didn't cease, but she gained something worth far more, a purpose worth fighting for. She gained the knowledge that she mattered, that chains of injustice could be shattered. She gained the joy of seeing others freed. She gained the harvest of the seed she planted in soil soaked with tears. Through decades and advancing years, she gained immortality of the soul. She gained the satisfaction of being whole. And in the end, isn't that what we all seek? Not comfort for the meek, but meaning, purpose, legacy, true, the knowledge that we did what we could do. Sojourner Truth lived her truth completely. She spoke her conscience clearly, sweetly. She never compromised her soul. She kept her vision of the goal. And when she died at 86 years old, more valuable than any gold was the knowledge that she'd given all, that she'd answered freedom's call. This is why we tell these stories, not for fame, not for glories, but so you'll know you have the power to be the voice in this hour. History isn't just what has been, it's what is and what will begin. With your choices, your voice, your stand, you shape the future of this land. Sojourner Truth is calling still, from beyond the grave, across the hill. She's calling you to take your place, to run with courage in this race. Ain't I a woman? She asked that day. But her question echoes another way. Ain't you human? Ain't you free? Then what will your legacy be? Will you stand up for what is right? Will you be a beacon of light? Will you speak when others fear? Will you make injustice disappear? The answer to these questions lies, not in the past, but in your eyes, in your heart, your soul, your voice, in the courage of your choice. So rise up like Sojourner, strong and true. The world is waiting now for you. Take your place in history's line. Let your light forever shine. Because her story and your story too are part of something grand and true. The eternal human quest to be dignified, respected, wholly free. Follow Freedom Stories America, because the bravest voices in history are calling you to continue their legacy. Answer the call, be the change, speak your truth, just like Sojourner Truth.